Greetings and welcome to Unit 3 of Module 1 of TALG, Teaching and Learning in General Programs. Our Unit 3 is related to learning, assessment and instruction. These are the three words that we propose to address in this unit. In the last unit, Unit 2, we looked at the two words, very familiar words, education and teaching, and we stated education is intentional learning and generally and is what the society deliberately transmits through educational institutions. So, we are only referring to, as far as our program is concerned, education as intentional learning, and this intentional learning takes place in formal educational institutes dominantly or in some formal setting one way or the other. If you are attending a short term course which is still a formal setting, but not necessarily an educational institution. Whereas teaching is facilitating learning through interventions by the teacher. These interventions are not necessarily only lecturing, there will be several as we have seen, and even this teaching you have a wide range of teaching models, and people have been experimenting with variety of teaching models and they find them relevant or effective in different contexts. But the nature of intervention is based on the preference of the teacher, nature of the subject and the context. This will get reflected when we go over to the actual instruction part. These are the two words that we have looked at in the last unit, and I strongly urge all teachers to spend some time explore on their own these two words, and there is a tremendous amount of literature available on the net. And now coming to Unit 3, the expected outcomes of this unit are: explain the familiar words learning, assessment and instruction in the context of accreditation. Why we say context of accreditation is these have very specific meanings with regard to the accreditation. And most importantly, which we will keep repeating the statement, understand the centrality of assessment in facilitating good learning. So, these are the two outcomes of this proposed unit U3. Now, coming to learning, learning is acquiring new knowledge, skills and values. What does it mean? Prior to learning, we did not know something, and after learning we knew something different, and the something different can be new knowledge, or we acquired some new skills, or we also acquired some new values. Values would mean here what we consider important to as far as subject is concerned, or to individuals or to life in general. Okay. But where does exactly learning take place? Learning takes place in the brain. To that extent, understanding really what learning is a very complex thing, and we are far from understanding how exactly learning takes place. Another definition of learning is a process that leads to change, which occurs as a result of experience and increases the potential for improved performance and future learning. So, learning is always a process that leads to some change. This is one formal definition by Ambrose and others. Another way of looking at it is learning is a complex interaction of myriad influences, including genes, neurophysiology, physical state, social experience and psychological factors. So, what happens if you want to facilitate good learning, teacher may have to pay attention to many of these things as well. Though we fully do not know how to take care of all them, but all these all these factors have influence on the either nature of learning as well as quality of learning. And as we keep learning, our view of the world keeps changing. What does it imply? Because each one of us right from our childhood go through a series of learning experiences, and the sequence of learning experiences of each individual will significantly different from others. So to that extent, our world view or our view of the world will be different from the others. So everyone's view of the world will be different. That is what has to be kept in mind. And another thing is, mere possession of information is not synonymous with learning. See, mere possession of information may stay with us for some time as long as we keep repeating something, otherwise it will kind of fade out. That is the nature of the memory processes of the brain, and it will fade out. Otherwise, just merely having information alone is not synonymous with learning. By having information, you may or may not be able to use it effectively, either to solve a problem or to present yourself and so on. And another biologist's view, learning is stabilizing through repeated use certain appropriate and desirable synapses in the brain. Now we come to a little more specific detail. The learning can be interpreted in terms of how the synapses in the brain are getting connected to them, or how new synapses are forming. So learning can be interpreted in terms of what do you call desirable and appropriate synapses forming, and even when they form, they may not stay permanently like that, they may fade out, but they will stabilize only through repeated use. So this is the basic you can say physiology or neurochemistry of the brain and so on. But what it means is, for something to stay with us, if the learning to be effective, we must repeatedly use this either information or a particular skill or practice that knowledge. Otherwise the synapses will kind of fade out over a period of time. And learning imposes new patterns or organizations on the brain, and this phenomenon has been confirmed by electrophysiological recordings of the activity of nerve cells. So prior to learning and post learning, if you take the electrophysiological recordings, they will be different. That means if there is no difference between the two recordings, that means absolutely no learning has taken place. So one can, if you want, you can say there has not been any electrophysiological activity in an inattentive student, you can say. Okay. Now there are several learning theories. Once again, right from the beginning of the 20th century or even a little prior to that, people have been trying to understand how do people learn. So very first you can say theory is due to Watson. They call it behaviorism, and he believed learning is the acquisition of new behavior through conditioning. We will not elaborate these theories in detail, but through conditioning means humans react. If there is a stimulus, there is a response. For any stimulus there is a response, and for a sequence of stimuli you may get a sequence of responses. So by the behaviorists, this school believes that by controlling the sequence of stimuli and also associating a reward and punishment type of mechanism with that, I can influence the learning. That is why this conditioning by reward and punishment is the central approach of behaviorism, and it has been practiced heavily There have been heavy criticism of this, but yet there are many things that we still do today in the classroom which come from this particular behaviorist view of learning, like repeated practices or by doing a certain set of exercises you learn something. Many of these things were the products of this particular school. Then comes cognitivism. This is around Second World War time, 1940s. It was recognized humans learn by generating knowledge and meaning through sequential development of their cognitive abilities. These cognitive abilities include recognition, recollection, understanding, application, reflection, analysis, and evaluation and creation. So, all this list of processes that we are talking about, recognition through creation, are what we call cognitive processes. We call these processes as cognitive processes, which we will have occasion to elaborate in the subsequent units. One thing you should note is humans learn by generating knowledge and meaning. That means when I am learning, I am generating my own knowledge and meaning of the input from the inputs that I have received. So, to that extent my processing, cognitive processing, is likely to be different from somebody else's cognitive processing. To that extent the knowledge that I generated or the meaning I generated can be different from somebody else's. So, to that extent a teacher should realize, though he is saying the same thing to the entire class, different students, different learners will generate their knowledge and meaning differently. This needs to be recognized by the teacher. Now, another theory is what we call social constructivism. There are several people who contributed to this. This theory considers that learning occurs within a context that is itself a part of what is learned. Knowing and doing cannot be separated, and learning is a process that is extended over time. That means just by receiving one input your learning is not complete. It is extended over a period of time, and generally it happens, it improves, or learning itself happens through social interactions. That is why we call it social constructivism. By discussing with our peers or with somebody else, our understanding seems to be, or our learning seems to be improving. Once we accept the importance of this particular learning theory, several types of activities become important, like what we call discovery learning, hands-on learning, experiential learning, collaborative learning, project-based learning, task-based or problem-based learning are the consequences of this social constructivism. Actually, today all these methods of learning are considered very central to good learning. Okay. So, social constructivism plays a very dominant role in present days considerations of good learning. Now, there are a few things that have come relatively recently. It is called heterogogy. A form of self-determined learning is a holistic learner-centered approach to learning and teaching in formal and informal situations. What this theory tells you is the ability to learn will be, or knowing how to learn will be, fundamental skill, and that means the most important skill that a learner has to get is ability to learn by himself or herself. That is because this becomes important because the changing structure of communities and workplaces and the technologies that are coming for your day to day operations, that makes it, because the context in which you are operating is continuously changing and the knowledge is growing very fast. So, this ability to learn it becomes a most important skill in today's world. To that extent, this particular learning theory is an important one to be considered in present days. Now, there is another thing called pedagogy. Like here, pedagogy and andragogy. Pedagogy deals with analyzing and co-creating the educational environment as a whole by the peers who share their learning situations and experiences benefiting from information technology. Already in today's, even in majority of the colleges, the students keep exchanging their notes or how they solve the problems they discuss, for example using let us say WhatsApp. That is only one tool people use, and then they use a whole lot of exchanging photographs. You take a document and take a photograph and share with your group. That means you are now creating an environment, a method of learning is getting created by groups of learners, and that is what makes a difference. And then we need to understand the dynamics of this to further facilitate good learning. So, pedagogy has a role in today's context as well. Still, next one is connectivism. Connectivism is the integration of principles explored by chaos, network, complexity and self-organization theories. Any organization has large number of groups, and to achieve any organizational goal, different groups have to work together. I may or may not know majority of the members of these other groups personally, and yet we interact with each other. So, to that extent we are creating unlike classroom environment where there is a single teacher and there are a group of students. See, that is the nature of learning environment today. That learning environment is becoming nebulous, in the sense who exactly are the members, peers, or who are exactly the people who seem to act as facilitators. That is not very clearly known, but somehow that is a kind of a self-evolving thing, and mainly it is the network and the database. These are the ones that really form the core, and even the nature of this network and the database keeps changing with time. To that extent, the whole system itself will become self-organizing over a period of time. So, another learning theory is how do people learn in such a connected environment. So, that is another can we take advantage of that even in the classroom. So, a teacher can consider whether one can use principles related to theories related to connectivism as a part of his instruction. Now, we have identified a few learning processes, learning theories. From this, educational psychologists derive principles of learning process. So, what are these some examples of learning process? Contiguity. That means this is a very self-evident and very obvious. It doesn't have to be called really a principle. Contiguity means what follows what and what is the connection between the two. If one is adjacent to the other in terms of concepts or information, whatever it is, then one is likely to learn better. So, contiguity, repetition, reinforcement, socio-cultural context of learning, these are all the examples of principles of learning process, and the specifics can be worked out in each environment. Once again, if you are working at a a primary school level or middle school level or higher education level, the specific implementations will differ. So, these are principles of learning process. So, we got a general picture of some learning theories, and at least I strongly advise each teacher to spend some time to explore by himself or herself on the internet to have a feeling for some of these methods. So, one should be familiar with that. Now come to the what we call the very important topic of assessment. First thing we need to clarify is the words assessment and evaluation somehow are used interchangeably even by the teachers. These two are completely different activities. Assessment is a measure of performance, that is, to find out what the student has learned, what kind of measure do I use? This measure could be writing an answer to a question on a piece of paper, or solving a problem, or it could be making a presentation, or submitting a report, and so on. That means the kind of performance that we are expecting from a student can differ. So, assessment really refers to what is the performance measure am I using. For example, I can have a quiz as a measure of performance, or I can have a what is called assessment instrument, an examination paper as a measure of performance. What exactly do I measure? Something, because once again, why is it important? Depending on the measure of performance, there is a time and infrastructure that is required for it. Like if you want my student to write an examination or write on a piece of paper over a period of time, there is a time associated, there is a context infrastructure is associated, and so on. Similarly, another one, if I want my students to make a 5-minute presentation, in today's context you have to make arrangements for a LCD projector and a particular room that is appropriate for it, and so on. So, what happens, there is and many of the measures of performance which we consider important may not be possible because of the infrastructure that is required for that. Okay, that is one aspect, that is assessment is a measure of performance. Evaluation is an interpretation of assessment. Now I ask student to perform in some way, and then how well he has performed I am evaluating. That is, I interpret his performance, like I read the answer that he has written, and then I can give a rank, I can give a grade, I can give a mark, whatever method that I want to use. Evaluation is an interpretation of assessment. These two are two different activities, they are sequential activities. In the sense, first the student has to perform and then it gets evaluated. So, one should not use these two words interchangeably. Now comes, how do students prepare for example, in any formal setting that you operate, there is always an examination to be conducted, and the nature of the examination, because we can't ask the student to perform in every minor detail that I have taught in the classroom. That means I am selecting something, I am selecting from a whole bunch of possible measures a small number in a limited period of time. So, what happens is finally whatever the tools that I use will tell the student what is considered important by the teacher. So, you are communicating to the students through our assessment tool what is important. For example, after all, everyone will try to minimize the effort that is required to reach a particular goal. A goal for a student is really getting a good grade at the end of the semester, or at the end of midterm exams. So, to that extent he will work towards getting that good grade. That grade is dependent on the nature of the test or examination that you conduct, and a test or examination is nothing but an assessment instrument. So, our assessment tools tell the student what we consider to be important, because finally if we performed well with regard to the our assessment instruments, then we give him a good grade. Okay. So, we are officially acknowledging performing well in our given test instruments leads to good grade. That means we consider that he has learnt well. So, this is what needs to be understood, and the teacher will have to say, by setting up a particular examination you are telling him what is important. A teacher should never state in the classroom learning well is not the same thing as performing well in the examination. These two should not be different. Then in my opinion you are doing disservice to the students. And teachers guide students to learn through their assessments. Many times we also will have quizzes and so on. These are other type of assessment. They may carry or may not carry marks. So, teachers guide students to learn through their assessments, and it is a kind of a glue that links the components of a course. What are the components of a course? Its contents, instructional methods, and the skill development. The assessment really is a kind of a thing that links all of them, and that is why many educationists consider assessment really drives student learning. And what is the implication of that? If you want to improve the quality of learning by the student, you have to start from what kind of assessment you are conducting, not in terms of changing the content of the course immediately. For the same content, I can improve the quality of learning by improving the quality of my assessment. That is what it means, assessment drives student learning. Now, we will deal with assessment lot more in later modules, but there are fundamentally two types of assessment. Formative assessment, like the kind of questions that we ask in the classroom or conduct a quiz which does not carry marks. These are the ones that we try to find out at what stage the student is, and also guiding the student that he needs to learn what is it that he needs to learn next. This is what we call formative assessment, and other word for it is assessment for learning. And you have summative assessment, like when you conduct an examination, midterm exam or final examination, you are finding out to what extent the student has learnt. That means it is assessment of learning. So, these are the two types of assessments, assessment for learning and assessment of learning. And the most important aspect is the assessment should be in alignment with stated outcomes of education. Let us assume that you want your student to be able to do something at the end of a course, or at the end of a let us say by end of first week in a course and so on. Your assessment should be in alignment with that. What does it mean? Let us say you want a learner to be able to drive a car, okay. Whereas in actual test you will only ask him what is the role of carburetor, or how does the brake function. If you ask such questions, then it has nothing to do with the intended goal or intended outcome, namely that his ability to drive a car. Now, the only way you can test him whether he is capable of driving a car or not is to make him drive a car. That is when the assessment is making the student drive a car. So, that is what we call alignment. Assessment should be in alignment with the intended outcome of learning, and this is where in many places in India there is in some places there is some misalignment, in some places there is a gross misalignment. The intended outcomes and the actual test items that you find in the examination are not at all aligned. Again, this alignment we will look at it in a greater detail in a later unit. Now comes the next one, namely instruction. Instruction, the purpose of instruction is to help learn and develop. Learning and development can be cognitive, affective, psychomotor and spiritual. Now, that is, you want your learners your students to learn and develop, and this learning and development can be in any of these 4 domains. Once again we will elaborate these domains in a later unit when we come to the taxonomy of learning. Learning can certainly occur without instruction. For if you walk on a street and keep even if you do not observe, as you keep walking, several sensory signals will come from which we seem to be learning something or the other. Or without intention, as you keep interacting with people, we keep learning. And instructional designers, that is a particular profession you can call it, apply the principles of learning to the design of external events. We call it instruction. That is, using the principles of learning, the instruction designer plans a set of events, external events that lead to better learning. That is what we call as instruction. There are principles of instructional design. We will not be going through the theory of this instruction and instructional design, but as a teacher one has to understand the principles of instructional design would help instructors to decide when practice and feedback will be most effective, when it would benefit students to be put into groups. For example, sometimes we want a group of students to work together, or we want to decide when to exactly to give feedback. So these decisions are made based on the principles of instruction design. The prerequisites for a problem solving and higher order learning skills. Everybody wants people to acquire higher order learning skills, but then how do you lead the students through a series of steps to achieve these higher order learning skills. So even that planning is a part of instruction design. And there are a whole bunch of, besides instruction designers, there are producers of instructional materials, curriculum material developers, designers of online courses, knowledge management system designers. All of them will greatly benefit from the principles of instructional design. The instruction design theory is somewhat different from the theories that we learn through various subjects. The theories that we deal, let us say in physics, chemistry or any of those subjects, they are what we call descriptive theories. Descriptive theories means essentially we are trying to find out what is the cause and what is its effect. Is this cause leading to a particular effect? You have to establish its correctness or what we call validity of that, either mathematically or experimentally. Whereas instructional design theory is somewhat different from that. It is what we call design oriented theory. See, it is trying to say design oriented theory means if you do the steps A, B, C, you are likely to lead to a better result. ABC sequence ABC is not the only way to achieve the result, but I might say if I follow ABC, I am likely to achieve my result better, either in lesser time or better quality and so on. So, to that extent the methods proposed by this are probabilistic rather than deterministic. Okay. That means if I take a different type of example, if I design a cell phone in a particular way having these features, it is likely to be accepted by the customer better. What features, what kind of physical shape it should have, this can be different when different people design them. As you can see, you have a whole bunch of models that are available in the market, and each one of them performs your activity all right, but some you prefer, some you do not. It is that is where the nature of design theory one needs to understand with respect to those examples. Now here, to that extent, the major concern of design theory is preferability. That means when I design something like this, my customers are likely to prefer my product. Similarly, in the case of teaching and learning, we say if I follow this sequence of events, my students are likely to learn better. Better could be their level of understanding has improved, or they may be able to learn in a shorter period of time. So, there are a whole bunch of instructional design theories. Merrill's principles of instruction, which we will deal with in another unit. ADDIE, this also we will be dealing with in another unit. Situated cognition theory, socio-cultural learning theory, Bloom's taxonomy of learning outcomes, that is what we will be doing in this unit itself. Individualized learning, SAM, a successive approximation model. These are some instructional design theories. Now, what we would like you to do, as you are not specializing in learning theories, but spending a little time on exploring that will sensitize you to the learning process better. So, we suggest these 3 exercises. Which one of the learning theories you can relate to more in your experiences and why? Because some learning theories make more sense depending on the subject that you are dealing with. Write maximum of 250 words. Why do we need to be concerned with assessment in higher education and how? Give 2 examples of your approaches to instruction you felt led to better learning by students in the courses you taught or experienced. Write maximum of 500 words for each example, giving some evidence of better learning. If it is okay, you can share your answers with the instructors, but this is not the assignment that we are giving. That assignment comes later. In the next unit 4, we try to understand the features of outcomes and outcome based education that make education student centric. That is the goal. We properly look at what are outcomes and outcome based education in the next unit. Thank you very much for your attention.